You're not raising a compassionate child if you often cry in front of your kid, saying that you're depressed and in pain and being generally too open about your mental health and struggles. You're being an incompetent and irresponsible parent. First of all, I'm all for teaching children about the importance of taking care of their mental health and helping them develop empathy and compassion, but in an age-appropriate manner. However, I'm seeing more and more parents writing complex captions under their photos and filming podcasts about juggling parenthood while battling depression/bipolar disorder/anxiety, etc. They're all very into the idea of sharing their mental health journey with their kids, usually in the 3 to 10 age range. One of them is so proud of her 6-year-old son who came to comfort her after she had a major meltdown, a yelling and crying fit in front of him. And she received so many comments of support from other parents who were describing their situations. One mom said that her depression taught her 2 little girls independence, because she had to prioritize herself and they understood. No, they didn't understand. They are kids. Kids need their parents to guide them, but also to shelter and protect them until they mature enough to learn certain things. Your kids don't see you as a complex person with a set of emotional and psychological baggage, they see you as their mommy and daddy. They see you as their protector, their safe place and their superhero. Your depression didn't teach your 2 little girls independence, it taught them that they can't rely on you. And the other woman's son saw his mother have a complete meltdown and she's proud of his reaction. I'm not saying I'm an expert on 6-year-olds, but seeing my mom cry, yell, and act completely neurotic would freak me out and scare me, so I would try to help. Not because I would understand, but because I would be freaked out and hoping that I could calm her. A kid shouldn't have to do that. If you think you're about to have a meltdown, you make sure it's not around your kid, no excuses. If you're depressed and can't properly care for your children or commit to motherhood/fatherhood, you ask for help. Be it your spouse, your parent, your sibling, or your friend, you find someone who can help give them a sense of stability in their lives so they don't have to parent themselves while you work on yourself. And the most important thing is, your kid is not your therapist and your venting buddy. Your kid doesn't need to know if you're struggling really bad, if you have financial issues, if you aren't happy, if you're having a lot of stress in your life, etc. Don't victimize yourself in front of your kid because, even if it seems like a good idea and a way to be a modern parent, you're doing more harm than good. I have bipolar disorder and I'm 22, I plan to have no kids. I've read so many stories from people who now have really bad anxiety and depression because they had a bipolar mom who they had to walk on eggshells around and pick the lock on the bedroom door because she's been in her room all day long and they didn't know if she was alive. When I was younger, I went to a friend's house when I was 6 and she and her mom showed me how to make pancakes. The 6-year-old knew how to make things as well as her mother did, and now I know she probably did all the cooking, and when she got a job in high school she paid all the bills because her mom's depression was too severe to work. Then when she was about to go off to college her mom begged her to stay. That is too much to put on your kid. Your kid isn't your caretaker, you are the kid's caretaker. Don't mentally prepare a daughter/son to mother childish men/unstable women in their future relationships. You don't know it, but by expecting a lot of a child they carry those expectations into adulthood, and you might just be priming your child for abuse in the future because someone will take that hard-working and helpful attitude you used for your own gain in their childhood to drive your child into worse situations. Teach your child to be assertive and proactive by handling your own shit. Holy fuck, thank you, your kid shouldn't be your therapist. My mom once said to me, if you come home from school and I've killed myself, it's your fault. I was a quiet, nervous child, so it wasn't that I was so bad that I deserved that. She used to cry often in front of me, so I can agree with you, it really affected me. Yes, raising a kid while having mental illness is hard. But you're so right, they don't need to know details and be the support system of a mentally ill parent. I am a mentally ill single parent, and putting this kind of trauma on children is just not okay. I look at it this way. She didn't ask to be born and many choices could have prevented it, so in turn I need to be okay for her to be okay. I force myself through all of the hard things and have shifted my thinking with therapy and proper medication. Is every day rainbow and sunshine and am I mom of the year? No. Does she know her mother has a long history, documented in wards, hospitals, jails, etc., of mental illness? Fuck no. Only up from here, let's not ruin another life you fuckers. If I'm not mistaken, this is how codependency is created. Which means later on in life when the child grows older they will seek out unhealthy relationships where they want to play as the hero because, they were unknowingly taught trying to fix somebody is what a relationship is. I couldn't agree more. I'm all for open communication and healthy levels of emotions in front of your kids, but there's a fucking limit. I suffered from postnatal depression, and although I have had some days where it's all too much, I would never dream of putting my kids' needs second to mine. Yes, I have cried in front of my little girl, but never a full-blown meltdown. You let the emotion come and then get over it? Mum's having a hard day and gets a bit teary? It's okay kiddo, let's go distract ourselves and play with some Legos or go for a walk. Teaching your kid healthy coping strategies is vital, and if you think just sobbing in front of your kids until they have to come to comfort you rather than taking control of the situation yourself as the adult is a coping strategy, then you're so ridiculously wrong I can't even begin to explain. Kids need you to lead by example, and if you're an inconsolable mess then what could you possibly think you're teaching your kids about their own emotions? My strategy has worked flawlessly. I have a bright intelligent toddler, who will allow herself to cry, but will also instantly start looking for either comfort from me if it's all too much, or something to occupy herself with. Often if she's in a general funk she'll bring me her shoes and we'll go walk it off around the block. OMG this. There's a popular girl on Instagram who does this and it drives me nuts, at Caitlin Flatiger. Yep. I grew up in an abusive home. My stepdad was physically violent as well as mentally and emotionally abusive, and from as early as 3 years old I can remember my mom saying she wanted to run away / kill herself / disappear etc. As well as unloading all her issues with my stepdad / other family / friends on me and my sister. We both have had pretty severe mental health issues to sort through as we've gotten older. I've always had really severe anxiety and my sister has been diagnosed as clinically depressed. It's taken quite some time to get to a point where we can acknowledge that our mom was abusive as well, just in a different way to our dad. Parents shouldn't treat their kids like mini friends. It's good to be open with your kid but not to the point where you're relying on them for your mental and emotional needs. That's just forcing your kid to grow up faster than they should. Lots of adults have children to become their very own service animals or compassion pets. Like no. They're humans, they're not for you. I'm 18 now, but I completely agree with this. My mom used to be level-headed because she had her sister to vent about our really shitty family, whole different story but dad bad. Unfortunately, my aunt died 5 years ago and my mom has had absolutely nobody to vent to, and recently she started to open up to me about her feelings since I'm now an adult. I'm actually planning on being a counselor for HS, but her being my mom makes the situation more stressful since she's all I have besides my brother. It doesn't make me more compassionate, it makes me more anxious and plants seeds into my head wondering how she's actually doing. Don't have a fucking mental breakdown in front of your kids, and if you do please just say you need a little bit of alone time and leave the room. It incites the worst fear and I know because I have felt it. If you had a parent or parents like this, you already know this. Luckier kids that didn't experience their father threatening suicide every couple of weeks when money was tight probably won't understand. It basically boils down, as you alluded to, you shouldn't have to parent your parents. Yes. Don't quote me on that, but I read in a book about BPD that behavior like you described it could lead to your child getting BPD, or any other mental health issue, really. As someone who has BPD and depression I can somewhat agree. My mom suffers from depression and my grandma suffered from depression or BPD. My grandma slapped her husband and since they didn't share a bed, I slept in my grandma's bed. She cried pretty much every night. Neither of them seeked comfort from me, but they didn't have the energy to care about me. I wasn't mad about that, but very lonely, and it crippled my sense for relationships and self-love. LOL Yami. So please don't be too open about your mental health in front of your children. They need a strong parent that has enough strength and time for them. Which vloggers talk directly about poor mental health to their children, and I mean beyond the mere "it's in no way your fault, but I'm having some emotional issues and need to get a special person to help me out." Saying that is not even close to asking a child to be their therapist or venting buddy. BTW, if venting is self-victimizing, then 90% of the people in the world are victims, although I agree we all should be choosy about who to vent to. Most parents aren't good parents. There is a word for prioritizing yourself over your kids. It's neglect. I have 2 little girls and this is not okay. I completely agree with you. The more I think about it, I think you are right that it is more common, especially in mothers nowadays, to be more emotional in front of their children. That's a very selfish behavior and almost sounds like narcissism. There are ways adults can show their humanity to children without scaring them. As a grown adult who never saw their parents as human, I'd rather would have had them break down in front of me so I could witness the process of resilience. Fear and reality are teachable moments. Everything needs a balance. There's some flexibility to this. A stoic parent isn't a good one either. I agree with most, but the sentence about depression teaching your children they can't rely on you really hit me hard. I try so hard to not let my depression affect my kids. Sometimes it probably does though. It hurt to read that. I hope this isn't true. Because when you are truly depressed, that is something that is a constant fear you have. You are constantly telling yourself that you are not good enough and a terrible parent. I really hope you didn't mean it in that sense. Just hurt my heart a little to read something that is my biggest fear and weakness. Feeling like I could be hurting my kids in any way makes me so unbelievably sad. What they are doing is placing a huge burden on their children for emotional labor that they do not yet understand, while putting a heartwarming spin on it. Childhood is a time where you depend on your parents. Things like this do not make sense. As someone who grew up with a bipolar and severely depressed mother, this is so important. Witnessing my mother's mental illness from a very young age was so traumatic for me, and I still struggle as a direct consequence. My mother taught me I can't rely on anybody, that I am alone, and that someday I will turn out to be just like her. It's fucking terrifying, and it forced me to mature way too fast. My dad never took care of his mental health issues, never acknowledged them, because he wanted to be seen as the strong patriarch, and it irreparably damaged our family. While I agree to a large extent, I have decided to be honest with my kid about my bipolar disorder. Mine isn't uncontrollable right now. When I have him on weekends we go to Chuck E. Cheese, or sometimes the art museum and a movie. I show him healthy emotional control. My situation right now is ideal. However, I have decided to be honest about it with him the same as I might any other illness. In case I do lose control, I want him to understand that if it happens it's going to be okay and it's not his fault. Ideally I would always be in control and able to make rational decisions. That's just not the reality of mental illness.